You are listening to the Power Women in Green podcast. I'm your host, Ellen Hielkema. I get to talk to a power woman in green. These women are doing business in a new way, and it's feminine and from the heart. Behind every one of these women in sustainable business, there's a story worth being told. Join me and learn from her road to success and how to incorporate her knowledge into your own life and career. Welcome to episode 17 of Power Women in Green, the podcast. Today's guest is Marcela of Better Places Travel, which is a worldwide travel organization, but originally was founded in the Netherlands. Nowadays, most of us are travelers. Let's face it, the global travel industry is booming and it's still growing, and there are many things that are not sustainable about this travel. And Better Places Travel is trying to make a difference, and not just trying, but succeeding at making a difference and inspiring other travel agencies to implement some changes that they have incorporated that first people thought were impossible. They're setting trends and people are following their lead. So it was very interesting to speak to Marcela about this because it is mind-blowing what they're doing, and the goals they have that they're going to achieve are just huge. So I hope you want to listen to this episode, and please head on over to our socials and let us know what you think. Better Places Travel consciously focuses on individual, unique, tailor-made travel experiences. They believe individual travel is ideally suited to bring you, the traveler, directly in contact with the local population. You can spend the night in small-scale family hotels, lodges, or even in people's homes, homestays. Individual travel means there's plenty of room for personal attention, and we can focus on making your travel experience truly extraordinary. Aside from a focus on local, Better Places Travel also ensures that all their partners work as sustainably as possible. They are determined to make a difference and get closer to a 100% sustainable travel industry. Thank you so much for being on the show, Marcela. It is so great to have you. Welcome.
Thanks. Great to be here.
So nice to speak with you about travel.
Mm-hmm.
So, Better Places Travel. Can we start at the beginning? How did it begin, and what is the vision and mission of Better Places Travel?
Sure. Well, Better Places started as an idea or a seed, I guess, back in 2013, 2014. And founding director Saskia Griep, she worked in tourism for more than 25 years, and she traveled the globe, worked for various sort of big players in the industry, and came to the conclusion that it is really possible travel can make the world a better place for both travelers and for the local population. Saskia used to work for a mid-sized company that organized group tours, and that company was taken over by a large multinational. Group tours became bigger, and it was harder to offer the kind of travel that she was really passionate about. So more small-scale accommodation, meet the local experiences, etc. So she saw an opportunity to connect kind of the soft adventure traveler who's short on time with these local agents who were able to offer the kind of experiences a lot of travelers were craving. So small scale, responsible travel experiences. And that's how Better Places started. And a mission has always been better places to live in and better places to visit. And in that particular order. So it's always been for us about creating better places for our local suppliers to live in, so providing them with fair and direct source of income, and enabling tourists to have the kind of experiences that we feel a lot of them are after, so local, authentic experiences, so providing them with better places to visit, providing them with meaningful travel experiences. And that's always been, from the get-go, what we were trying to accomplish with Better Places.
Very cool.
Yeah.
So what are some of the destinations Better Places travels to?
Well, we started off with about 12, I think, and now we've grown to 38 destinations around the globe. They're all sort of faraway destinations, so Latin America, Africa, Asia, and the Middle East. They include countries like Cuba, Peru, Costa Rica, Tanzania, Madagascar, Jordan, Georgia, Indonesia, Vietnam, Thailand, and we're also currently focusing on expanding into the southern European countries.
Okay. So you touched on it a little bit about the difference between Better Places Travel and other travel agencies, but what's the real big difference between them?
Well, we believe that we set ourselves apart with our focus on small scale and 100% tailor made approach. So there's always personal contact between our local experts and the travelers before, during, and after the trip. And we focus very much on the satisfaction of the travelers, but also of our local suppliers. So we only work with one local supplier per destination, and we really focus on building that relationship. We want to help them to grow their business sustainably. So we want to align our vision with theirs in terms of sustainable travel for the long run. And we provide all our local suppliers the opportunity to become Travel Life certified. We help them expand their operations in implementing more efficient back office system, etc. So we really want to grow together with our local suppliers. And in terms of what we offer to travelers, really our 100% tailor-made approach is quite unique in the market still.
So for each trip, Better Places compensates the CO2 emissions, which is admirable commitment.
Yeah.
Especially for not that old company or quite young. So tell me a little bit about why this is so important to Better Places Travel.
Sure. But yeah, we were quite the trailblazer in this aspect, especially within Dutch tour operators. We really always thought, climate action or climate change, it's a big responsibility, and also for the travel industry, and we want to take that responsibility seriously. So we understand that air travel is by far the most environmentally harmful component of overseas travel. And that doesn't mean that none of us should ever travel overseas, but we do want to inform our clients about the kind of carbon footprint that airline travel leaves behind. So we really invested in the first few years. We used the Carmacol calculator, which won the Responsible Tourism Award a few years back, to map out exactly how much carbon emissions are produced by each one of our trips. And about at least 75% of that was airline travel alone. So we made a decision in the very beginning that we would compensate the carbon emissions of airline travel undertaken by our clients, even though we don't actually sell airline tickets. And that's not part of our offering, but we wanted to make sure that we compensated that at our own cost. So it was never an opt-in model. We just decided to do it for all our travelers. And we worked together with the South Pole Group, who are basically a wholesaler of carbon credits. And we invested in a gold standard project through them in Ghana. So to provide more efficient cooking stoves in Ghana. And we were able to do this for a couple of years. And like I said, we're quite the trailblazer in the field. And now a lot more Dutch tour operators have followed. So in the last year alone, some 15 others have decided to compensate CO2 emissions for their travelers at their own costs through the same program that we started using. So it was a great example of how a small company can possibly make a big difference.
Yeah. Very cool. 15 in the Netherlands alone.
Yeah, exactly.
That is a very good example. So Better Places also partners with Dopper, which is a Dutch brand of water bottles, a reusable water bottle. So you promote reusing water bottles while traveling. So made me think of, so where do you get the water in certain countries where you can't get water from the faucets?
Yeah. Well, actually, most of the destinations that we offer, there's no clean running water. So we recognize that this is an issue, and we're teaming up with both bloggers and local organizations to map out other sustainable refill solutions. So for instance, in 2017, we donated funds and we partnered with Refill My Bottle, which is originally a Bali-based local organization. And they're developing an app with an interactive map that travelers can download and find out which spots on the island they can refill their reusable water bottles at, because plastic waste is obviously a huge problem in Bali. And through our support of these kind of on-the-ground initiatives, we're hoping to at least, try and help to begin to solve the issue. We've also teamed up with several bloggers who wrote for Better Places about traveling with a dopper in different countries, such as, for instance, Jordan, India. And these are all countries where you cannot drink water from the tap. And the way they did that is basically, mapping out where, in which hotels you could refill your water bottle. A lot of hotels are starting to offer ways in which you can refill through large tanks, or some traveled using other purification devices, such as a SteriPen, so that you can actually purify water on the go and use your dopper to refill in that sense. So we've tried to highlight some other sort of water sterilization and purification systems that work really well for travelers, and to show travelers that it's possible to minimize plastic waste when you're traveling, even in countries with no running water. And we're really excited to share more of this kind of information in the future and invest more in these types of projects.
Yeah, very cool. I always wonder, can you really, those SteriPens, I think, mentioned, can you really clean water with those? Like, is it like dirty water? Dirty water, like really.
So one of our bloggers traveled around India, and that's sort of notorious as a country where you might get sick from from water or from food. And she traveled using both a SteriPen and a life straw, and didn't get sick once. And it's proven to purify 99.99% of the bacteria. So it's entirely possible to do so, but it does take a bit of a switch. I think a mind switch, to be able to trust it that it will do that. So that's also why we wanted to highlight these type of experiences, and to make sure that travelers know that it is indeed possible. And even if they don't feel comfortable with that, there's other ways to go about refilling your bottles, such as in larger hotels. And hopefully initiatives like Refill My Bottle will spread beyond Bali, so we can...
that would be great. A worldwide app. I think a blogger actually doing it, using the SteriPen and the life straw, and showing that it's possible. I think that's really important, because I think not most people aren't brave enough to just say, okay, I trust it. I can turn this really dirty looking water into clean water.
And that's fine. At the end of the day, it's a holiday and people should enjoy themselves and not feel pressured into doing this. That's why we're trying to, point out several different types of initiatives, and it's all about minimizing waste. So one step at a time.
Exactly. One step at a time, for sure. People, you can't make them go all hardcore. Life straw.
Exactly.
You can't force people. So we spoke earlier about measuring the impact of trips as well. So this seems to me like, how do you do that? Super difficult. So can you shine a little light on why Better Places wants to measure this, and what this process will be like?
Yeah, sure. Well, it's really a complex issue, but we do feel strongly about it. So we really believe in transparency and in sharing information about what we do. We did that with the carbon compensation. We did that with minimizing plastic waste, so pointing out how much plastic is wasted on an average trip. So we really believe in sharing what we do with travelers, with local agents, and with competitors. And like I said, mapping out the CO2 impact of our journeys is just one example of how we did that. But we don't want to stop there. So we want to start much more far-reaching impact measurement study this year. In practice, we're going to start off with a couple of destinations as a pilot study. And probably Peru will be the first destination that we will focus on. We have a very good relationship there with our local agent. They're very excited to do this kind of study as well. And we really want to focus on the social as well as the economical impact of a Better Places journey to one of these destinations. So, for instance, to focus on how many homestays nights were taken up by Better Places travelers in 1 year, and what this meant in terms of an economic and a social impact on those providers, on those local suppliers, how much money Better Places brought into the sort of the community-based economy, etc. So that's kind of what we're looking to focus on in the beginning. And how many local suppliers we hired through our trips, how much CO2 emissions we compensated for, how many plastic bottles we potentially saved from improper disposal. So it's still very much a work in progress for us. And like I said, we'll start with a pilot study focusing on one destination, and then we'll take it from there.
So Better Places is the Dutch brand. Better Places Travel is the English branch, right? And then there's a German one as well. The German branch called Fairway, right?
Yes, Fairway.
What are the differences between these, and what are there more expansions coming in the future?
Well, at the core, we're very much the same company. So we focus on promoting local, responsible, authentic travel. We, have the same mission, vision, but there are, of course, we've had to tweak our approach slightly depending on which market we're active in. So, for instance, for the German branch Fairway, we recently also started to offer flights because we discovered this was important for the German traveler. For instance, for Better Places Travel, we've listed some shorter travel suggestions on the website. So between 10 and 14 days rather than 14 and 20 days, which was more the norm on the Dutch and the German side. We just noticed that international travelers don't have as much, holiday days, and they're seeking shorter trips. So in that sense, kind of the more practical sense, we're slightly different in terms of our marketing, but we're very much part of the same company. Our goal is still the same, and we all offset the CO2 emissions. We're all committed to minimizing plastic waste and to build strong relationships with our suppliers. We mostly work with the same suppliers across the three brands. In some cases, Fairway works with different suppliers because of language. So to make sure that there's a German speaker, and Better Places Travel, in some cases, does as well. But across the board, we're ultimately the same company. And at the moment, it's the three brands that we're focusing on. So.
And expansions in the future already, in the near future, or?
In terms of new brands or new market? No, so for the now, it's the three. So Better Places Travel is really much focused on the international sort of English-speaking traveler, not really limited to, the UK or the US, but sort of across the board. Better Places in the Netherlands and Germany, Fairway. And those, for now, it's the three.
Cool. So you're at the branch Better Places Travel, and it actually only started just a few months ago and aims to serve globally. A lot of the beginning of a business, and in this case, a new branch, is trial and error. Can you talk a little bit about how you're testing various strategies and communications?
Sure. But we're quite lucky at Better Places Travel, so we're able to, draw on the success and the know-how of Better Places, of course. And like you said, any initial phase is a lot of testing. So I think it was important for us to start with a solid plan based on, what we've seen has worked and hasn't worked for both Better Places and Fairway. And we started with this roadmap, and we gave ourselves some time to yield results. So, we always try to give each new idea, each new strategy, at least a month or two before we make any big changes again. And at the same time, you need to stay proactive. So you have to admit when one course of action hasn't worked the way you thought it would. And, you can't be afraid to make mistakes. So I think that's the case with any startup. But, we've also made mistakes along the way, and you can't be afraid to admit that and change as you go along. So it's still very much in the initial stages for us. So we're busy testing the waters.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So a lot of startups end up failing. What do you think, while you work closely in a startup, is the success of a startup? Is there a secret sauce of working at that you've learned from working at a startup?
Well, I think Better Places really came about at the right time in the Dutch marketplace. So it came with a solid sort of formula for success, but one that's deeply rooted in our mission and our vision. So, which is, travel for a better world. And, we've never sort of greenwashed or just talk the talk. And I think that's something that travelers pick up on as well. So we've, really committed to doing work on such as trailblazing work in getting the CO2 emissions compensations firmly on the agenda. And we're really happy to see that this has been taken over by other players in the travel industry. And another thing is what we're really proud of is our consistently high rankings by our travelers. So we won the Reisgraag Award in the Netherlands for the third year running, and our average rating by travelers is 9.2, which is just amazing. So I think the satisfaction of our customers and our local suppliers has really been sort of our secret sauce, what's kind of paramount to our success, and timing.
Yeah, cool. So it sounds like authenticity, walking the talk, and knowing the market really well as well. So expertise.
Yeah, exactly. Yes.
Very cool. Thank you so much for being on the show. Do you have anything else you'd like to add for our listeners, or?
No, I think no. It was really good to talk to you. So thanks for inviting us, and good to share the story of Better Places and Better Places Travel. And we're really excited for the future and what it has to bring for our startup.
Yeah, very cool. Thank you so much for being on the show. I really admire the mission and vision you have, and how you're a small company in Holland setting out to change the way travel is being done and really create a better world for the travelers and the local communities and everyone working in the travel industry. And I love everything revolving around the reducing plastic waste and CO2 emissions as well. So I applaud you very much. And thank you so much for being on the show.
No, thanks a lot. Good to talk to you. All right.
Bye.
Bye.
So what do you think? That was a pretty cool episode, wasn't it? I find Marcela and Better Places Travel to be very inspiring, and I feel very passionate about all the work they're doing and the impact they're making, and the ripple effect that what they are doing is causing in the world of travel is just mind-blowing. So I'm super grateful for Marcela to have been on the show, and for Better Places Travel to be doing what they are doing, and from a humble little country, the Netherlands, which honestly does have a lot of travelers. And I really believe that they are making an impact, and I think the world of travel is changing, and it's unrealistic to think that people are going to stop traveling, because travel is important too. It's also a part of educating, and I don't think it's necessary to completely give up travel in order to be an environmentalist or to be as sustainable as you possibly can. But what I am very curious about is, are you willing to make certain changes when you travel next? Even if you don't travel with Better Places Travel on your next trip, what are some changes you are willing to make on your next trip? Would you see yourself drinking out of a life straw and bringing your own to-go bottle? Please let me know. I would really like to hear it. So share it with us on social media, Instagram, Facebook, and let me know what changes you are willing to make on your next trip abroad. Thank you for listening. Thank you for listening to the Power Women in Green podcast. Learn how to greenify your life by heading over to powerwomeningreen.com. Here you can find the latest green news and the best eco products from my favorite kind business.